Let's take a look at this practice exercise and see how we are going to find the missing numbers. Let's quickly review the information presented in this exercise. We've been given a balance sheet with assets, liabilities, and stockholders' equity. Two pieces of missing information are common stock and retained earnings. In the income statement, we have revenues minus expenses, which is cost of goods sold and salaries and wages expense. That gives us net income. We have two items missing over here as well, which is cost of goods sold and the net income. And then finally, in the statement of retained earnings, we have the balance sheet beginning, the retained earnings beginning balance, to which we add the net income number. We subtract dividends, and that gives us a retained earnings ending balance. And here the net income number is not presented. So what we will do over here is we will rewrite the three statements and arrange them in a slightly different fashion. So let me bring this into view. So I have this laid out in a different order. First the income statement, then the statement of retained earnings, and then the balance sheet. And I've identified the 5 missing numbers over here. So in the income statement, I have revenues less expenses. That gives me net income. Revenues are $85,500. I took the number from what was presented over here in the income statement. I was told salaries and wages expenses $10,410. I put that in parentheses to indicate it's a subtraction. So 2 numbers are missing over here. Therefore, I can't work with this as yet. Before I move to the statement of retained earnings, let's quickly review what's in the income statement. Revenues are monies that has been earned by selling goods and services in a given period. Typically, we are looking at 1 year. Expenses are the cost of doing business, again, that correspond to the current year. The difference between the two is net income. A company that's been in business for some time will have retained earnings beginning balance. A brand new business will not have anything. This balance will be 0. So what does retained earnings mean? Retained earnings is this net income number that the business retains, which means keeps in the business. Well, if they don't keep it in the business, what would they do? They could give it to the owners as dividends. Dividends is a share of the profits that they give out. A corporation does not have to pay out everything that is earned in net income, does not have to be given out as dividends. If the board of directors decides to give out dividends, this is the number that's going to be paid out. So since this company has a retained earnings beginning balance, it's not a new business. So from prior period, they've retained $19,400. They have earned something in the current period. We don't know what that number is because we don't have it here. From these two, whatever is available, they have paid out $4,160 and they are left with $34,400. So the retained earnings, this formula is always the same. Retained earnings beginning balance, add the net income from the current period, subtract any dividends if they were paid out, and that gives you retained earnings ending balance. This ending balance number is what comes into the balance sheet. So balance sheet has 3 items: assets, liabilities, and owner's equity. Total assets must always be equal to total liability plus total owner's equity. So in this case, we have not been given the stockholders' equity, nor have we been given retained earnings, and nor was this total stockholders' equity given. So what was given in the problem is total assets, liabilities, and total stock liabilities plus stockholders' equity, which we already know has to be the same number as the total assets. So now here's what I would suggest how we're going to work with this. Look at the information over here and see which one we can solve easily. Okay, so we will start over here. The retained earnings ending balance is the same number as what we have over here. So I'm going to start highlighting this in different colors so to help me explain. So these two have to be the same number. So it typically is from the income statement, we get into the statement of retained earnings, and then we come to the balance sheet. Now, in this case, we're just filling the missing numbers. So I have 34,400 over here. So I just bring that number over here. I copy it from here to over here. So let me put this in black font to show you that's the 34,400. So before I could get A, I got B over here. Then I also know that total assets equals total liability plus total stockholders' equity. I know assets and I know liabilities. So I'm going to work this out as a formula and show you how I would do this over here. Total assets equals total liabilities plus stockholders' equity. Total assets is 69,400. Liabilities is 5,300. Those were given in the problem. I'm just copying those numbers from what was given to me. And I rearrange the terms and I say my stockholders' equity equals, I calculate the number and I get 64,100. I bring that number over here. Now I know my common stock plus retained earnings ending balance is the stockholders' equity. Now I know two numbers, therefore I can find out this number, this missing number. So again, if I set this up in an equation, common stock plus retained earnings ending balance equals stockholders' equity. Rearrange the terms. Common stock equals the stockholders' equity total minus the retained earnings ending balance. That gives me the 29,700. Now I have A and B. I've taken care of those. Okay, so to get to A and B, I had to first take the number from here and bring it over here. It's the same number that carries over. Okay, now that I've done that, let's see what I can do over here. Statement of retained earnings. Retained earnings beginning balance plus net income minus dividends gives me retained earnings ending balance. Out of the four items, I know three. So this is very simple. I'm solving for one number that's unknown over here. So again, I'll write this out as a formula and show it to you. Retained earnings beginning balance plus net income minus dividends equals retained earnings ending balance. So I write down all the items I know, and then I can finally solve for the one that I don't know, which is the net income number. So I get my net income number to be 19,160. Now, where else do we see the net income number? Over here. Remember, from here it came in over here. So the same number that you have over here, that's the exact same number. It came from the income statement into the statement of retained earnings. In this case, we're taking the number from here and moving it back over here to the statement of retained earnings, income statement. Okay, so in the income statement, revenues minus expenses gives me net income. Now, there are two expenses. I know one of the two. I don't know this last one, this last missing number over here. Once again, set it up as an equation. The easiest way to work through with this. So I'll say revenues minus expenses, which is cost of goods sold minus salaries expense, gives me net income. I know 3 out of the 4 numbers, so I can solve for the one unknown. Cost of goods sold is 55,930. So always keep in mind, these statements are interrelated. The income statement and the statement of retained earnings are for a period in time. Balance sheet is always at the end of the period, which is why it's retained earnings ending balance. If you ever had a doubt as to should I take this number, retained earnings beginning or retained earnings ending, it's always a retained earnings ending balance, because balance sheet, all of these are ending numbers. All the assets, liabilities, all of them are ending numbers. And also remember, what is ending for 1 year becomes the beginning balance for the next year. So I hope this helps in terms of understanding how to work with an exercise where there's some missing information.